Hey there, I'm Sully, and welcome to the Gun Club. Alrighty, folks, got a little change of pace in for us today. I know we've been talking about having some more guests on for a while, and had somebody come across my radar, and it was somebody who, well, let's just say, did something that honestly I know a little bit about, but I think this gentleman knows a whole lot more and may be able to share some knowledge and wisdom and education with us. And beyond that, I'm just a big believer in supporting small businesses, as being a small business owner myself, and loving to see somebody out going out on their own, trying to do something better and build a better mousetrap. So, from that standpoint, talked to this gentleman on the phone. We finally got a chance between my schedule and his to get together. So, without any further ado, going to introduce Mr. Erwin Gill from Blackbelt Ammunition. Erwin, welcome aboard. Welcome to the Gun Club, sir.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, glad to do it. Glad to do it. Like I said, I know we've had scheduling go back and forth, had a lot of fun with that over the last couple of weeks, but it is what it is.
It is what it is indeed.
Tell us a little bit about Black Belt Ammunition.
Well, that could take the rest of the next hour or so, but
That's fine.
I personally have been making ammunition for about 52 years. I started very young. That's the way I kept all my guns fed when I was a kid. And as time's going on, I've wanted to go into business from time to time. I keep my friends and family stocked in ammo, as it were. And I've always managed to talk myself out of it. But when COVID hit this time, it was like, all right, I got to do something. Nobody has ammunition. I want to start something now, but I don't want to be just like everybody else. So how do I try to differentiate myself, make a better product, a different product? And that's what we did. And I've had, we've had a soft start 3 years ago, and then we've restarted again just in the last 6 or 7 months.
Okay. So
anyway, we were going, so what I wanted to come up with was a better idea, or at least do what everybody else is doing a little better.
Right.
The story I had was, which I think it's on the website, but I'll tell you, I came out of my basement lab down there where I make all my ammunition, where my shop is.
Mm-hmm.
I remember coming upstairs with a round of ammunition because I was really impressed. I just impressed the way it looked. I had been at the range testing all day, how well it functioned. And my stepdaughter was there, God bless her, and she was sitting there. And I'm going, look at that round. That really came out really cool. And she said, well, what's so cool about it? Well, nobody does this. I figured out a way to make this, do this, this, and this, and this, a couple different things. And she said, well, why aren't you selling it? I said, well, and then I went, and my wife went, well, and I went, I don't know. Why don't we? So I wanted to try to come in. I want to come in with ammunition that I would carry that I don't see out there in the marketplace. So that's what I wanted to do: hunting ammunition and carry ammunition.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we ended up doing. Try to get in there in most of the major calibers, and come up with something that really works well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I wanted to make it accurate. I wanted to make it at least as powerful as everything else, maybe a little more, and I wanted it to perform better.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a bit of a challenge because we've done gelatin testing, high-speed videos, accuracy testing. I work with guns. Not laboratories. If you go to the big gun companies, they don't have time. They have to get through it, and they have testing procedures. So they might be using a fixed breech, just sitting there and firing it. It's already sighted in.
Right.
Some of us use just real guns that you would use.
Mm-hmm.
My testing procedure is call all my friends in with that caliber gun. All right, guys, here's a pile of ammunition. We're shooting today. Let's go.
There you go. I bet you're popular.
I can be. I was at the gun club about a month and a half ago, and I just walked into a meeting, and I just said, all right, guys, we're going to be shooting. Anybody wants some 9mm right now? Come over. Oh, my God, I shouldn't have said that. I got attacked. I was like a cat and a three-legged cat in a dog pound. They jumped on me. And just take it out and shoot it. Let's see if it works. If you got a complaint, tell me about it.
Right.
And that seems to work. I don't, knock on wood, I've gotten very good comments about the quality of our products. Look, I realize the average guy, when we're out shooting, when you're at the range. My daughter said this, God bless her, the other day. We were out shooting. Her and a friend were out shooting for a little bit. And my daughter goes, Dad, I really just don't care. I just like to make the gun go bang. It's fun, you know?
Right. And I can see that side of it too.
Yep.
But again, to me, there's, without going in too deep, the science behind it, I understand a lot and a little. And okay, this is heavier projectile, slower
Mm-hmm.
weight, and I get a lot of that. But to sit there and think of, okay, someone who's actually tinkering with and trying to dial it into the right
Mm-hmm.
specs, it's like, okay, that's interesting. That's unique to me. Especially
That's fun. That's what I do. I mean,
right.
I'd be honest, I was up, couldn't sleep, so I was up at 6 o'clock in the lab tinkering around, going, let's see here. I want to have a new product in September.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can match this bullet. Well, here's the one I have. I'm hopefully going to kick off, which is we're going to call either the sledgehammer or the hog hammer for all you got down south.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of boar, and maybe you
Right.
guys have a 1911 or a 45 automatic. Want to go hog hunting? I'm working on a 255 grain hollow point in a 45 automatic, and it's moving at about 900 feet per second, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still in the middle of testing it, and just, the gel testing's coming up, but that's going to be for September. So, in the fall, someone goes hog hunting down in your neck of the woods. We're not allowed to do it with an auto in Pennsylvania,
Mm-hmm.
but you get a chance to now you want something that maybe has a little more hitting power.
Right.
So a little heavier, a little better mushrooming ability to be able to dump the energy in a hog. Down south, you hunt with dogs. God forbid, you don't want the bullet to penetrate through a hog and shoot a dog,
right,
or a person. So you want it to stay inside that animal and drop them as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So
I might just have to get a 45.
Well, I'm working on a couple other calibers too. But yeah, it's just something to try. So that's what we're always trying to tinker and trying to come up with another way to please the public.
Right. And I think the one thing is, you mentioned right there, just trying not only to keep the bullet in the target animal, whatever it is, dump the energy there, not have it through and through, but also, when I teach CWP, I always tell people, if I send XYZ foot-pound energies downrange, I want to make sure that the recipient gets all of it. I wouldn't want to waste any.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't send it down there to waste it. You think about it. You send someone $100 gift card. You want them to get all $100. You don't want them to get 75 and 25 get lost on the ground.
A wise man once said, and we up here, a lot of people carry Pennsylvania is probably 10% of the population has permits, the whole population.
We're about that down here in South Carolina. We're about 10% of the adult population right now. And we just recently got open carry. Well, I say recently, but it was 2021. But it used to be old rules. You had to be 100% concealed 100% of the time in public if you had a permit. You could not, if I was outside a grocery store and I was getting ready to go in, I had a sweatshirt on as my cover garment. And I looked and I was like, it's going to be pouring rain when I come out. I want to take this sweatshirt off and grab my raincoat out of the back of my truck. That much time could get me charged. And law enforcement looked at it as, if they can say, if someone calls them up and can tell you what you're carrying and where you're carrying it, that was enough to charge you. Now, they did away with that back in 2021. Thank you. Because it makes so much more sense. We have some people who are open carry very regularly. We have others who are, concealed carry or some mixture thereof. But the thing is, now it's, letting us be a little bit more creative. Now, what all calibers do you have?
Well, let me just finish the one. So you were talking about the CWP class, and the one thing I wanted to add to that is what we mentioned in one class up here is every bullet you send down range has a lawyer attached to it. We don't like the bullets not hitting a target or not staying in a target.
Right.
So that was it. So what we make is right now it's handgun ammunition. We have most handguns. We do not have the 41 and 44 Magnum, but we will in the fall. We're going to be doing that for the hunting season. But every carry ammunition, 380 up, 380 9mm, 38 special, 357, 40 and 10mm, and that would leave 45 auto, 44 special. Excuse me, we have 44 special, 45 auto, 45 Colt.
Wow.
So we ended, and in some of those we have multiple choices. So we have either a hard, flat-nosed bullet, which, for want of a better word, we'll call an outdoorsman load. If you have a 9mm, and you want to walk around in the woods, but you don't know what you have, a 9mm might be that good on a 400-pound boar, but a brain shot would. So you use a hardened, blunt bullet that can just drill a hole. So we have those offered, and then we do have our hollow point, our expanding bullets.
Wow. Sounds like you've got.
Yeah, go ahead.
You had some fun since the pandemic started. Make good use of your time.
Well, yeah, it was actually almost all of this was projects I was working on for myself. I make my own carry ammunition. I've been making it for, let's say, I've had a permit to carry a firearm for 47 years, and I have almost always made my own carry ammunition. I guess, the people used to say you should use factory ammunition, so I thought I'd become a factory. Now I carry factory ammunition.
Well, I'll give you that one.
Yeah. So I wanted to try something different. We use the bullets actually are made down your way. They're made down. I hope I get this right. I think it's down near Atlanta, Georgia. I have a guy that makes the bullets, GT Bullets. Great guy. He's been supplying me with bullets for a couple years, and they're all a cast lead alloy, lubricated lead alloy, and they just function well. That's why I stuck with them.
Well, like I said, I know from, again, talking back and forth, quality ammunition. If I'm, summertime, it's 86, 90 degrees. Chances are, especially when we're under the old rules, I had to carry a little 380. There's just no place that with, I was carrying a little 380 Ruger LCP pocket rocket, and it was, good enough for what it was. Now if I want to, I can, get the full frame Browning high power out and have fun because I can open carry, But for a long time, I had to use the 380 because the laws was so restrictive at that point. But it's like, okay, if I can get good placement with quality ammunition, I don't feel undergunned.
I have the open carry. It's great. It keeps you from being charged, but you do run into the same problem than the police have, which is somebody stealing their gun.
Right.
If somebody comes up and grabs you now, and the only reason I bring that up is we're sponsoring a handgun retention seminar in August. Only because it's one of the things people should learn and realize. If someone's got your gun out, somebody grabbed you from behind. I can see what you were talking about, especially if I just want to change my cover garment. It's being so draconian, whereas I just can't. God, if my shirt rises up a little too high, or one of my friends who was a writer showed how even perspective. He had a full jacket. I saw the pictures. So you're wearing a sport coat, and he's carrying a combat commander. Nobody can see it. But what happened to him was, and he depicted this, he was shopping one day, food shopping, and the little girl with her mommy standing behind him said, "Look, mommy, the big man's got a gun," because she could see under his coat. And wouldn't that have been an open carry issue then? Because she would say, he's got a gun right there.
Yes. I know, and in talking to law enforcement, they said, "Look, we're not trying." And I mean, having worked where I have, I know a lot of law enforcement guys, and they said, "Look, we're not trying to be difficult about it, but pretty much our command has said if they can tell me what color it is and where on your person it is, it was obviously an open display." Well, And I used to frequently be, coming and going from different places. And, now it's hot all day here. But in the
Mhm.
spring and fall, you can go out in the morning wearing a hoodie because it's 55 degrees
Mhm.
and it's 70, 80 at lunch.
Mhm.
Okay, come on. And, pocket rockets were easy.
Mhm.
And,
And it's a
I'm
gun. You have a gun. You have a gun.
it's better than nothing.
First
The
rule
one
of a
you've got's
gunfight.
better than the one in the safe.
And it's not that it happens often, but the latest FBI stats run it was about 375 to 400,000 violent crimes, with 53% of the police departments reporting. So just double it. We're looking at
Yeah.
1 million violent crimes every year. Now, with there 330 some million people in the United States, so your chances are pretty slim. But you know what? 1 million times a year, it does happen, doesn't it?
Right.
And
And I mean, we do a lot of incident critiques on here. I go through a lot of the active shooters on here, things like that. Um, I teach some of the medical side for the active shooter training and things. I've done protect the congregation, things like that, different church groups as a
Mhm.
real class. And we sit there and we talk about it. And I don't want to say use the term profiling in the negative sense as far as like racially profiling, but I can sit there and I can profile these shooters, and we've got it down to a pretty good. I've dialed it in pretty well.
Mhm.
For example, a couple of these shootings that happened over the holiday weekend. Okay,
Mhm.
if law enforcement gets there and there is multiple shots fired, but no shooter there.
Mhm.
Okay, if it was any decent permit holder, the average John Q permit holder, if they're not there or talking to the PD within 12 to 24 hours after, let's say they retreated, within 24 hours, if they've not talked to the PD, okay, chances are it's a dirty gun. They're underage or a prohibited possessor. There's,
Mhm.
3 or 4 things wrong here. And we were seeing, I mean, I know 4th of July weekend, Chicago had 73 shot and I think 14 killed.
Wow.
City of Chicago. We had that block party in Baltimore that had a bunch. And it was like, I'm not trying to be difficult, but we had a Sweet 16 party down in Alabama that we had a bunch of people shot at. They ended up with 7 guns at a Sweet 16 party. Oh, by the way, not a single person who had any of these handguns was 21 or above.
Right. What is somebody an unauthorized person doing with a handgun?
15 through 20, 7 guns. Age 15 through 20, 7 guns.
And then you have the other side of that, which was Elijah Dickens in 2021 in the Greenwood Park in Indiana,
Mm-hmm.
who was the licensed
Carrier
person,
yeah.
and there, John Sapirman, I think if I got the name right, was the shooter, 20-year-old guy with an AR, with a rifle, and we had a good guy in the right place with a gun.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we have a gun society. Actually, we have a gun world. I don't care. I'm sure you can go anywhere in the world and get a gun, even though in like places like England, they're highly restricted. You can always steal one from a cop. They have criminals. We have a lot of them. We have pardon?
The interesting thing is, I've talked to a couple of people over there, and they say that, while they're harder to get there than they are here, they're not harder for the bad guys to get. I watched video from that uprising in France the other day. I don't know if you saw the video that came out. There were a couple of individuals walking down the street with an M249 saw. There were people cutting loose with fully auto Kalashnikovs.
Where'd they get them?
Well, I don't know. They have such good gun control in France.
You know what I mean? But how'd they get a gun?
These were people walking down the street in a town residential area where you could see apartments in the background holding the stuff up in the air, and it was not semi-auto fire. Wait a minute. Now that's France. That's okay. And then you see someone carrying two guys carrying a 249 down the street. Tell me that's not happening. How'd that happen? And they had a lot of video from it. So the guns are there. They actually think that some of the guns that are popping up either came from what we left in Afghanistan or Ukraine.
It wouldn't surprise me.
But that's in France. So again, we'll never get rid of guns in the world. Now, I think there are some things that we could do to eliminate some of the problems with guns. In fact, I know my stream wasn't last weekend, but it was the weekend before when I did all the 4th of July stuff. We took 5-6 shootings and went through, prohibited possessors. Every time they were either underage or previously convicted. 99% of the people involved in these multi-shooters events, from Philly to Baltimore to, let's see, there was Tulsa, Oklahoma they were all prohibited possessors. Now, here's my thought, and this is actually being done by one law enforcement agency that I know of. They have, instead of like standard red flag laws or gun buybacks, they said that they had tried gun buybacks, just hadn't worked. What they were getting was half the time junk out of the closet that wouldn't fire, that was grandpa's old whatever, that was so rusted one cartridge would blow the back out of it, and that was it. Now, their sheriff, what they did was they got set up with Crime Stoppers, where if they get a call from someone that says, yeah, I know so-and-so has a gun, and I know they're a prohibited possessor, either because of underage or convictions, they get a Crime Stoppers number, like a tip number. For every weapon that the sheriff's department picks up, that person gets a $500 gift card.
Well, the biggest thing that really worries me is when you're talking about 15-year-old kids, where the hell's the parents?
Well,
where's adult supervision too?
What we're seeing is a lot of the 20, 21, 22-year-olds, they don't want to get caught with the dirty gun. So they will let their little brother, little cousin, little buddy hold it. Because, pretty much if, I'm walking the kid who unfortunately got shot in Chicago, the 22-year-old emptied the mag of the gun, heard sirens coming, gave it to the kid took off running down the alley with it. Now, it turned out that the gun was empty. The guy had emptied it out. How's the officer supposed to know this? You've got a kid running down a dark alley at 2 o'clock in the morning, multiple reports of shots fired, and he's got what in his hand? And the kid, unfortunately, got shot, and it was awful, and I hate to see it happen. I don't want anyone to get shot. I don't want to see a 15-year-old, 16-year-old kid. But, hey, when 5-0 comes, they ditch them. And we add the other one, unfortunately, is kids, how to put it as nice as I can. We have kids who are finding stuff because they're left home alone and parents are not on top of it. We've had like 6-year-olds. We had the 6-year-old in Virginia.
Shot the teacher.
Yes.
Brought a gun in.
And I did a series on that one. And I don't know how much you heard of that story.
I just asked questions. How does a 6-year-old get a gun and take it into school?
Well, it was mom's legally purchased Taurus 9mm that she swears up and down was kept locked up on an upper shelf in the closet.
No, it wasn't.
Okay,
it can't be.
Okay.
It can't be.
Now, the assistant principal was told of the gun 4 times that day before the shot was discharged.
Ooh, strike 2.
Yeah, it was 3 or 4 times. We can go back and look at the video when you get a chance. I went full rant on that one because the assistant principal, they did at one point check the kid, but they never checked his backpack, jacket, desk, or anything else. So one person says they've heard the kid saying he has a gun. One kid on the playground is saying he saw a gun, tells his teacher. All these teachers are running to the assistant principal saying, what do we do? And the assistant principal said, oh, it's these kids are making something up. And the teacher got shot point blank. And so, yeah, I went a little full rant on that one. It was actually one of my better ones, I think, because that's on Rumble. I know I put it on Rumble. I don't think it made it to YouTube because I may or may not have had some choice words for the assistant principal that we're all worried about these kids. And it's like, we can't get them through the day without having to bring gun to school. That's bad enough.
Mm-hmm.
But let's go one step further. Congratulations, ma'am. You got someone shot under your command for your failure to act. I fault the kid and I fault the mother, but I will also fault you. And I don't think you need to belong in education whatsoever anymore, because you know what? If you're not responsible enough to take that seriously, start up with do you want fries with that and work from there, sunshine, because you don't belong in any position of responsibility. I mean, because I know, you deal with responsibilities at work.
Mm-hmm.
I've dealt with a lot of responsibility at work. Someone who's that irresponsible, oh, well, he's going home in an hour and there's nothing to it. What?
Yeah, my other job, I live in the mining industry. That's where I work. We can't take anything for granted because everything will kill you in a second.
Yes.
So we must always be focused. And if there is somebody coming in that's impaired or under par or for whatever reason, employees are urged to talk to management saying, hey, Joe Smith over there, man, there's something wrong with him. You got to check it out, because it's not, we're not trying to get the guy in trouble, but we just can't afford somebody to get killed. I mean, so it's the same thing at that school. You had 4 chances to stop that. All they get, if they would have done it at number 3, but that unfortunately happens. I mean, the denial is not a river in Egypt either.
Right. And I can see to a little bit of an extent how 6-year-old has a real gun. You know what? We've had law enforcement officers killed by 10-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
And no one likes to talk about it, but it has happened. And, this one, the 6-year-old had a gun. And I said, here's the deal. And when I did it, I said, I hope every school administrator, superintendent, board member, vice principal, deputy vice principal, director, of whatever the hell it is. I want you all, especially if it is an elementary or a middle school or one of those, go in right now and discuss with your chain of command what your policy is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this just happened. We've got all the facts of it happening. I researched that thing through the whole, I had video on it every other week. But now that we have all the information at the end of the day, I want to go through a post-incident critique. How do we make sure that never happens again?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure, mining-wise, you all, if you have a significant accident, there is a stop work, there's a review, there's a critical, Okay.
Yes, sir. The feds are involved. In our industry, the feds are there.
Yeah. Between MSA and everything else and all those
Mine Safety and Health Administration come in. So, and then we always, you should have a stand down. We should always sit there and talk. We're going to review the accidents. And that way we got to look at it as a learning experience, because an accident isn't a fatality. And they can go to fatalities really fast.
Right.
I mean, we were talking to people shooting a magazine out of a Glock or whatever it is, a handgun, which is 15, 17 chances of something getting hit.
Yeah.
But it's still bullets. There's a handful. It's just there's a handful of bullets. In my other industry, it's a truck the size of your house. It'll flatten your car. You have if you're involved in that and you haven't taken full safety procedures, you're squashed. So we need to. It's just a inability of someone to take responsibility and just saying we need to do. And on the same token, you hear horror stories of some kid going like this, pew pew pew,
right,
having trouble with the school. I mean, where's the middle ground?
A Pop-Tart got chewed into the
Where's the middle ground? And unfortunately, we don't have that as much today anymore.
Well, and I know a couple of people in elementary education. In fact, we did. It was right after one of the shootings we were doing a emergency casualty care class at my other job, and I had a group in there, and they were a couple of elementary and middle school administration.
Mm-hmm.
This was the upper echelon, more or less, that was all there. And I brought the case up, and it was sort of like we're getting ready to take a break, and I put the case out, and I said, I'm going to throw this out to y'all, and I had copies of the news clippings printed out. And I said, when we come back, we're going to talk about this. And we came back in, and I said, you don't have to tell me one way or the other. I don't care. Here's my question for you. Could this happen at your school? And if you could, what are you going to do in the next week to make damn well sure it doesn't?
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, I can get to a point, it's a 6-year-old. But take and learn the 6-year-old did this. And if you've got 6-year-olds, learn that one person, didn't think a 6-year-old could do it, and learn the hard way. Mm-hmm.
Well, there must have been a whole series. I mean, look, I'll tell you, I don't know if it would work today in this world, but I know what I had to do when I had little kids, which was 35 years ago. Is I knew that I'd been involved in firearms since I joined a rifle team when I was 12.
Right.
So we figured that education, and my first wife was not a real enthused about firearms, but came to realize it was part of the real estate. So we decided to say, look, we're going to make education work. And I'll tell you this little story. It's because we could have had a very similar situation. I made it so that it wasn't forbidden fruit.
Right.
So we go in at night. We would open up the gun case. They would have a choice before they went to bed, and Daddy would take one out, and we'd sit there on the floor, show how to empty it, safe handling procedures. They'd sit maybe in my lap or in front of me, and they'd aim, pretend, looking at the wall, just getting the idea and the feel of how to handle a firearm. And then, of course, in your ear, you're whispering safety procedures. It just one a night. This is what you have to look for. So I remember my son was probably 5. That would have been, my daughter would have been probably in a little cart.
Mm-hmm.
And we went over to visit my wife's sister in upstate Pennsylvania. And as everybody would know out there, 5-year-olds are really just little raccoons. I mean, they just sneak around in everything, and they're going to get there. So my son just took off into the house, and he's looking around. And then he came back in a couple minutes, and he grabbed my shirt. He's like, well, I'm talking to my sister-in-law and her significant other, and we're sitting there chatting for a minute. And he finally went, what? And he goes, Dad, come here. And we went into the room, and apparently had snuck into the bedroom. And under their bed, they had all their guns laying on a piece of cardboard. And he'd slid the cardboard out. He said, look, they got all their guns laying right on the floor. So he did what he was told. I found a gun. Mm-hmm. I went and got an adult. Mm-hmm. Now, you got to admit, in this school shooting you've been talking about, people did that. They saw a gun and they went to get an adult. That's where it broke down. In our case, we went in and I said, hey, look, excuse me. Our kids are here running around. My son found your guns on it. Is there any way you could just put them up in the closet or something until the kids leave? He didn't touch them or anything. Everything's cool. But a lot of that's education too. Right. A 6-year-old shouldn't have said, I need to take this cool thing into school. I don't know how to get that, but we need, if you are a responsible gun owner, we need to start teaching our kids early that it's not a toy. No means no, but I'll still show it to you so that you understand it, because you're curious. And they are curious. So we have to balance it out.
And again, if you make it taboo, that's sort of a...
Oh, if it's taboo, right? Yeah. If somebody tells you no, your first answer is yes. We all want to win. We all want to win.
Oh, yeah. And I joke about it. My neighbors, she teaches elementary ed. He's an accountant. Absolutely super nice people. And I was telling them one day, because they've got a couple of young kids, and I said, yeah, about time for me to start, teaching them stuff. She sort of looked at me and was like, don't you think that's a little bit young? I said, can I get them to learn the 4 rules?
Yep.
And she was thinking about the 4 rules. I said, no. 4 rules for kids. Stop. Don't touch. Go away. Find an adult.
Huh. Very good.
And the thing is, I've done that with friends' kids, and it's, again, sort of patty cake kind of, stop. Don't touch. Go away, find an adult. If you can do that. Okay, so you got it. Now we're going to stop. Don't touch. go away, tell an adult. If you can get them to do that, I'll take it.
And indeed, it looked like it did work down there, with the exception of the one kid. I mean, other kids were saying, "We got a gun. We got to do something."
Yeah.
And that's our failure: is we need a responsible
Well,
adult. Let's do
it
something.
was, you know, one kid had heard about it, one kid had seen it, and one teacher had heard about it. Now, when the teacher goes to the principal and says, "Look, I'm hearing about it," well, it's his imagination. I mean, like I said, you can go back, or you'll go back. I'll have to find the stream and send you the link. I went full rant because it was like, what? You know, how do we get someone shot when the person in charge, the assistant principal, was told 4 times?
Yeah, and what would cause a 6-year-old to pull the gun out and actually? I mean, he's got to point
Well,
it at the teacher and pull the trigger.
Well, the 6-year-old, that was the third day or second day that he was there without having to have a parent with him because he had behavioral issues.
Wow.
Number one.
Gets
Number
deep,
two, she saw the gun and saw the kid pulling the gun out. And at first she like walked towards him and put her hand out. And as she put her hand out, she got through here and into the shoulder. Now, had we not taken some of that energy out here, could we have lost that lady? Yeah. And even after she was wounded, she managed to get the kids out of the room.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give her cardboard cookie for that. Very, very well played. But, you know, so from that standpoint, you can't ask for much better, but wow. All righty. I'm looking around. We've got a few watching on the YouTube side. I've got about 6 watching in the Rumble chat. Folks, if you would, go ahead and give us a like, give us a thumbs up if you can. We figure we'd sort of beat our gums here a little bit, chitty-chatting until got a few people in. We've got the Rumble chat, again, is open, as is the YouTube chat. If you have any questions for me or Mr. Gill, I know we've got some videos here he gave me to pull up and play for y'all. Let's see here. I figure they're kind of quiet some days.
It's
I don't know
okay.
if it's too early or what.
No, not too early here. Yeah, we enjoyed making the videos. One of my the woman that helps me with some of our IT issues, it can get a hold of the camera, the 10,000 frames per second camera. We bought blocks of gel, made the standards and all, and that's been a lot of fun actually for me as a researcher to actually sit here and go. I mean, I've shot into things, but to watch it in real time, you know, you shoot it, you walk over and you'll get the video and go, well, that was pretty cool. I never saw that. And then actually cutting them out, and we always enjoy the autopsies that were afterwards. We cut the blocks open and pull the bullets out and go, well, that worked.
Now, did you buy the gelatin or did you make it?
No, I didn't want to smell that dead hog smell, which would be done with pork gelatin. No, I went with the Clear Ballistics, if I can use the name. They make a really good product, and it has no odor. I think it's made with petroleum products, and it just feels like jelly. It's kind of squishy. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, it feels just like my belly. It's just squishy, and it's relatively. I've shot them. I have 4 blocks, and we use them over and over and over again. I just remelt them. I clean all the offal out, and then you just remelt them again, and you have a block. And they've been very good, and you don't know a lot.
So that's been fun. Gonna try to pull this up, and here is one of the videos. Now this is a 9mm you've got here.
There's a 130 grain hollow point we make.
Okay. So this is 130 grain, and I'm going to go ahead and run this. Come on, Bessie. You can do it.
Put a coin in the slot there. Pull the handle. It'll go.
I see what it is. Operator error. It was the loose nut. It was the loose nut behind the microphone.
As soon as he clicks it, it goes real fast.
But now I'm looking at that. I stopped it very quickly here. That's some really interesting, cavitation going through there.
Yep, and it'll keep expanding.
And the whole purpose is that's again dumping that energy there.
Yeah, and we had it. I haven't posted that video yet, but we actually had another one. You'll see it come through the end, and you see that the bullet almost got to the very end in the energy, and then the gelatin actually pulled it back. We have another factory hollow point that just blew right through. It actually bounced off the table and bounced into the woods. And then the only one that I kept was right under the skin in it, as it were, right at 16 and a half inches. Whereas this one comes in at the 12 to 14, and you can see it's got this big cavitation area, and that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
If we're talking about hunting ammunition, if we're talking about self-defense ammunition, if you're hunting, you want to stop your game. The idea is not to wound this. We're supposed to drop it as quickly as possible.
Right. And that's humane. I mean, in the big scope of things, I know some people aren't all about hunting this, that, and the other, but if we're going to take an animal, it needs to be,
mainly
easy for the animal.
So what you want to do is accuracy is everything. We have to learn to be accurate. We have to be accurate. The gun has to be precise. It has to be repeatable. And then after that, once you actually hit the target, it's like we said earlier, how quickly can we dump the energy into it? And then we can only do one of several things at that point. You can shut down the electrical system, the brain, the spinal column, or you can hit a large blood vessels and have the brain, as you know, in teaching first aid, I'm sure with EMS, you've only got X number of seconds without of consciousness, without blood flow to the brain. So if you can drop the blood pressure down to 0, we have now taken the deer or a hog humanely. If we're using it for self-defense, we are not here to kill somebody. We are here to stop the attacker. That's all our goal was. Right. And then the quickest thing we can do is, if we are in fear for our life and being threatened, and guys, I just came from a martial arts class. I was just working for almost 4 hours before here, and the whole training is to stop your opponent as quickly as possible, to stop the attack so that you get away, pick up your phone, call EMS, call emergency services, get the police there to do what they do. And if the person has been injured, the quicker we get EMS there, the quicker he survives or they survive. So that's what this is all about. It's how quickly can we stop it so that we can let the system work.
Right. And the thing is, from the law enforcement or the personal safety, personal defense side, I know that we like to think we go to the range and we practice and we practice and we practice, but on the other side of that coin, those targets aren't shooting back, number one.
No, they're not.
And number two, we're going, and I always tell people, if you and I decide we're going to, if you were local and we said, hey, let's go to the range tomorrow, we've got, 24 hours to get mentally prepared for what we're about to do. Okay, if you're walking out of the grocery store and some idiot jumps you with a knife or with whatever, you're not going to have 24 hours in advance. You're going 0 to 60, and it's real and it's now. And so, again, it doesn't have to be a perfect hit, a good hit, but when you see that cavitation, that wound channel, even if your hit isn't great, guess what?
Yes.
You're going to do enough disruption. And the thing is, it ain't Hollywood. One shot doesn't make them fly back.
No, it does not. So the idea is you have to shoot, and you have to shoot because you may not see any reaction.
Right.
You might have to fire 2 or 3 shots into your target before you get a reaction.
Right.
And then you have to stop.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not here trying to give people legal advice as to what to do, but I know what we teach in the martial arts, which is you do not use your art to pursue your attacker, because that's vengeance. That we're not allowed to do. That's what the law is for. Let the cops get involved.
Right.
Right. So that's So when we designed all this, that's what we tried. And I had done my own testing for years, but getting the gelatin blocks made it so much easier. We're trying to get more. I have more that we just haven't posted. We have everything that we sell. Every hollow point that we sell has been through this gel testing.
Wow.
And then we, pull the bullets. We weigh them to see if the bullet. Sometimes with certain other vendors, with certain other factory bullets, the bullet will hit and it'll just blow to pieces, which may or may not be bad. But what it doesn't do is do what you expect it to do. So if you're aiming to penetrate through, if you know about the 1987 shooting in Miami, which was changed the face of ammunition.
Right. It changed a lot of things, especially, I think a lot of those guys were wearing body armor.
It was 7 FBI agents against 2 guys that were not drug addicts. They were trained health guys, and that's all they did is train in small arms, and they were robbing banks all around the Miami area. And 7 FBI agents got close, and they all of a sudden caught up with these guys and said, we can take them. And when it was all done, only 2 people were uninjured out of that whole thing. A couple FBI agents were killed, a couple were shot and severely injured, and that got us all into studying how ballistics work.
Right.
Terminal ballistics. The 9mm head entered from the one side, went through one of the felon's arms, went in through the chest, and stopped 2 inches short of the heart. That might have been the one that saved an FBI agent's life, because a guy still went on to shoot for another 30 or 45 seconds. I forget exactly what, killing people. This guy would walk up to the car and see a wounded FBI agent and just shoot him. So we have gotten very scientific, and this gel testing coming up with good ideas. And it's been, I must admit, I knew what it was like when I started this in the 80s. It was difficult to try to come up with a good, a good, clear testing procedure. Now we have it.
Right.
And I'm very happy to say with our what we've been doing, the ammunition all does what it should do. It makes those nice, big, huge cavitations. It penetrates almost to the end of the block. It gets pulled back a little bit. We don't have anything blowing out, unless it's hunting ammunition. That's different. Hunting is different. But the self-defense, like we talked about the little 380, even though it's little, there's a little 380. When I shot it in the gelatin, everybody says the little 380 doesn't expand. Ours expanded just great. And I remember my help Jen was sitting there looking at me going, well, that wasn't it. And we're pulling the bullets out going, well, look at that. Wow. So it's like you said, it may be the little thing, but it's what you got. We're summertime. Pennsylvania, we can be 100 degrees here with 100% humidity. We're the same as you. Right now, I'm sitting here in cargo shorts and my polo shirt, right? When I leave here, I'm carrying a little 382 because that's about all I'm going to carry today. And after all, everybody else is wearing T-shirts, right? I don't have a lot of material to go through. A 380 will go through this. Even my porky little body, a 380 will penetrate. And it doesn't matter. Keep shooting.
Right.
So, folks, if that's what you have, do not feel undergunned. Just train. Just practice.
Right. And feed it the right stuff.
Feed it good stuff.
Feed it good stuff.
Yeah. Call us.
I'm a big believer in feeding it good stuff. I really am, because, again, we had our agency did have one officer involved shooting that I was very familiar with when I was there, and the officer was using a 38 or 357 Magnum. It was like a Ruger Security 6, I believe. He got one shot on the perp.
Out of how many fired?
1 out of 1.
Oh, 1 for 1. Okay.
Shot right here. And pretty much it was, they used to call them Hydroshock. I don't know what they are now.
I know what Hydroshock is.
Yeah.
Federal Hydroshock.
Yeah, now we used to call them Hydroshock. Now they're the XHT or SHT or whatever. But those days it was still Hydroshock we carried. It literally blew not only the trachea out, but the spinal cord and everything. I mean, if you've ever seen a round, and again, it was very close range. It was 57 Magnum round, engagement feet of about 6 inches, 6 feet. But yeah, it about beheaded this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, to me, that was one of the learning curves of, okay, you don't need just, plinking ammunition.
No,
Wow, look at what that thing did.
when something needs to be shot, we used 357s. Was hunting down in your neck of the woods some time ago, and I had done the loads. This was 20 some years ago. We were hog hunting down in your neck of the woods, and as you may know, wild boar down there can be big. The largest one we took was over 400 pounds. It took 5 of us to pick it up to get it in the truck. The gentleman was using a 357 Magnum, and another one of my friends. And in those days, I was using name brand hollow points, but I was recreating somebody's. I don't know. I guess I can use the names Sierra and Spear. So I was using their bullets. I was recreating their ammunition. I was just tuning it to their barrels. That was all. Just trying to get a little better velocity. And in both cases, the one gentleman's hog was about 400, like I said, over 400 pounds. The bullets penetrated completely. And this is a hog. I mean, you're looking at something about 18 to 20 inches thick. And the bullet, it made a nice hole, but it went through, went out, and the hog kept fighting. It took 4 rounds to actually stop the hog. So, and another gentleman, same thing, hit his, and that hog was about in 325, 350. Bullets they over penetrated. Looking back on it, I should have used something different because the bullet did what it should do in hunting. It made a 3/4 inch hole right in and right out, and we did eventually get the hogs. But what you're saying, that was good performance. He fired 1 shot, and the guy went down. We didn't do that good. If those hogs had been really bad, well, we didn't have any dogs killed. We did have one killed later. And that's what happens when you just can't stop them fast enough. So, yeah, that's what it's a hot topic. I know that most police departments are usually questing for, the best, whatever that means. They look at what the FBI carries and certain other SAGEs and other police departments and what shootings work.
Right.
And now we've taken, you and I were talking a little about 9s and 45s earlier. It's really turned the 9mm into an extremely effective handgun.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, that was a big old, 9mm versus 45, 9mm versus 45.
Oh, trust me, I heard that very loud and clear when we transitioned over, and our original first gun they were transitioning us to was a SIG 226, and then honestly, one of the instructors, our range master, went to the sheriff and convinced the sheriff that I should not carry it because my fingers were not long enough and the grip of it was too thick for my quote unquote chubby little bear paw.
Yeah, you want something that fits your hand.
He made the comment. He went back and forth because the sheriff was like, no, this is what we got. It's standardized. And it was very much, and he's like, okay. And so, Sheriff, next month, are we going to order everyone all the same size boots too?
And same size uniforms and same
same size vests. Yeah. He said, look, and so at that point, it was like, okay, what do you recommend? And at that point, I ended up going with some other options because my hand just didn't fit the gun. I was putting everything at 9 o'clock. And he's like, okay, first of all, I know how you shoot. Second of all, your group is great, but it's all over there. Why? And he went looking at it, and sure enough, he's like, the gun doesn't fit him.
You notice
great guns. The gun doesn't fit him.
You do notice now how a lot of the firearms coming out have different back straps. Right, though. But that was, when we were younger, much younger, you had a choice. You didn't have much choice, excuse me. I know when I, about 23, 24 years ago, I am a revolver guy. I just have always been a revolver guy. And then I decided, I guess I should get one of them newfangled 1911s. So I went out. My daughter was with me, actually.
Two world wars.
And still going strong.
Yeah.
Still going strong. Premium handguns being made every day by it. And I remember there was like my little local gun shop, and I remember there was 4 or 5 I looked at. I got it narrowed down to maybe 3, and the prices were all common. And I finally read, I had an idea. It's kind of what you were just saying here, Sully. I'm going to close my eyes, put the gun in my hand. We made sure everything's cleared, right? I put the gun in my hand. I just pretended I was shooting it. I had my eyes closed. Take the gun. Give me another one. And one of them felt better. One of them just, I don't know whether it was. And I just went, this is the one I'm buying. Now, it was a Smith & Wesson. I like Smith & Wessons. I don't know why, but it always felt, and now it's funny, my daughter says the same thing when we go out to the range.
Which Smith is it?
They're 1911.
Okay.
I just, she likes it too. She'll now that she's an adult.
Right.
Very much an adult, and she's very comfortable shooting a 45.
Right. And the funny thing for me was when we went through at that point, it was, okay, what can we figure out? And so we went through what was all the different loaner guns they had at a couple different ranges. We've got to find something that fits. And then, a couple of things. And we ended up with, initially it was a Taurus 92.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And that, was fairly functional for me. And then, later on my own, I ran into an amazing deal on a Browning high power that it had been in the case for a while at the local range for like 6 and change. And one of our guys had finally bought it, someone in my circle of friends. And he loved it and thought it was great and everything else. And went home, took it and showed his wife. And his wife showed him the belts on the car, on the tires, the steel belts on the tires. And the next day he was selling it for $5 or $5.50. And he had it less than a month overall. And with it being a law enforcement kind of a family gun that was bought on a badge, you have to be very careful who you would sell to. But it was very easy for him to sell to anyone with a badge.
And
so yeah, I got the Browning out of that.
You see, they stopped making them. Brownings, I guess it's FN, stopped making them, and now there's 3 or 4 different clones, and I think they're coming back. It's a very popular
There's
gun.
Supposed to be one coming back.
Yeah, I know Springfield came out with one, and it's a great size. It's a really for a 13 or 15 rounder or whatever you get magazine. The gun is very slender, very slim. It's got a good locking mechanism. They've been very accurate. And the only thing, the old ones had crappy old sights, just the way it was. The newer ones, what I see, the sights are fantastic. So, again, good gun. Just feed it good ammunition, guys. You can try ours.
Speaking of that, I'm going to put your website up here. And Irv has been nice enough to give us a discount code here if you want to try some of his stuff out. Put that up. That's his website across the bottom there. It's www.blackbeltammunition.com. Blackbelt Ammunition, all one word, just kind of spelled like it sounds. And you can use code Sully10 for a discount on that. So again, to me, number one, I'm a big believer in supporting small businesses. And number two, when you sit there and it's like, okay, I have the utmost respect for someone who's literally, instead of saying, okay, good enough is good enough, with the testing you do and everything else, how many companies are out there that are resting on their laurels, that are, okay, well, we've got a big name, so that's good enough.
Well, you brought up something too, and I thank you. And I do the same thing up where I live here. I always try to go to the small businesses, the local guys. It was just yesterday, and we were talking a little about, and was listening to Robert Kennedy Jr. speaking, and he was talking about how, in his opinion, small business is the lifeblood of the United States. That's what we all, really, we're all small businesses. They're, of course, and how, unfortunately, they bear the burden of this country too. And not just that. Look, as your little microbrews, your local restaurants don't. It's one thing you go to the large food chains. It's great. You go in there. It's wonderful. It's locally managed. But you know what? The mom and pop restaurants that have been there for 30 years, there's a reason, or the startups, your local, any suppliers, look at farm produce. If you have farm to table down there, we need to support them. Local textiles. It's not just.
I'm lucky. We've got a farm right up the road from us here. They've actually got a little farm store there. It's a dairy farm, but they've got all sorts of cheese and eggs and and honestly, their products may not be as maybe a little bit hair more expensive than what I'd get at a big box store. But as far as fresh and flavor and quality, night and day.
We just did that. I took my wife out the other day to the local farmers market. Now, where we live, it's all Amish, which is great. I'm telling you, it was night and day compared to the local, large big box supermarket with the quality. And this is just farmers bringing their stuff in to sell. So, guys, this is what I say. We're trying to, a guy like, well, let me give you an example. My ammunition, probably one of my family members saying, I'm not the cheapest ammo. I'm going to tell you that. I am not the cheapest. I did not make cheap. I was taught you can either make it cheap, fast, or good.
You get maybe 2 out of the 3.
Yep. Well, you're not going to get fast, and you're not getting cheap. You're going to get good. So, that's what we wanted to go with. If you want range ammunition, there is range ammunition. I cannot compete. It's like your microbrew. I'm sure everybody likes an adult beverage every now and then. I'm sure you guys have microbrews down there. They're the thing, right? You go in there and you order a beer.
Oh, down around Charleston and stuff. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you're down in Charleston.
Asheville.
I've been in Charleston. You go in Charleston and you find your local, not a beer, not a bar, but where they brew their own. And you're going to buy whatever. You're going to buy a nice Dunkel beer, a dark beer, or whatever you particularly like. You may pay 2 or 3 times what that costs if you were just going to go out and buy a Bud Light or a Coors. They're both beer. They both have alcohol. You probably enjoyed them both. But, for certain occasions, you don't mind spending for a premium product.
Right.
Whether it's a whatever. And that's what we're going for. I'm trying to come up there and say, look, we got a premium product. This is something you want to have in your gun if we're doing this for real. Yep, you should practice a box or 2 a year just to make sure everything goes bang. But it's like everything else. You might drink Coors most of the time or whatever your flavor is. But you owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself to go out to a nice dinner. Go to the local, the family diners that have been there forever that make great food.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, you mentioned, the breweries. It's like, there's plenty of nights that I've been, at the bar till, dark 100 and it's, whatever's on tap that night or, okay, let me get rid of some of the Mick Ultra. Let me, whatever. Which keg do you need me to clean out for you tonight, hon? Because, if she was trying to, I need to blow the end of this keg off. Okay, I can do that for you. I'm that kind of guy. But on the other side, I love going to one of the discount. It's a liquor beverage store, sort of a half and half, beer and wine on one side and liquor on the other. And it was amazing. It's interesting. We've got Gabby Rios in the chat. For the 3rd time, Sound of Freedom is the #1 movie nationwide, beating Tom Cruise's Dead Reckoning.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah, many theaters, they say, are still sabotaging Sound of Freedom. If you live near the Amish community, get to know them. They're definitely showing us why. There's some real interesting. We don't necessarily have Amish down here. It's Mennonite, which I know.
Yeah, you're close. That's very close.
Yeah, I'm not going to even try to cross that, But, and then, saw it Thursday. Yeah, I actually caught it on Thursday. The theater was packed.
Oh.
Now, you would not think going to a movie theater at 3:00 on an afternoon on a Thursday, and there might have been 5 empty seats in the whole dang theater.
Well, we haven't been doing much since COVID. Everybody's
Right.
jonesing for it now, right?
Right. But yeah, it was definitely interesting. But yeah, that was a really interesting movie. I don't know if you've had a chance to catch that one or not.
I don't get many movies. I got 2 jobs too.
I hear you. I hear you. But I will tell you, if you get a chance at some point, Sound of Freedom, it's amazing. It really is. It was a good story, and that
Okay.
was an eye opener. Um, some really dark topics, but we'll just say because of we're on YouTube, I have to bite my tongue a little bit. Let's just put it this way: this country is the #1 consumer of that type of content nationwide,
Ah, okay.
and the #1 consumer of that type of commodity nationwide or worldwide.
Hmm.
So, yeah, some really wild stuff. And apparently there's been 85,000 unaccompanied cross the border in the last couple of years. So, and we don't know where most of them are. So,
You got me there. I don't get much movies. Like I said, I
okay.
really don't get out much, unfortunately.
Well, I'll put it this way. Personally, I think if the White House could just get a couple things fixed, that we could track all those kids down.
Yeah.
I'm sure the president would be on them like a bloodhound.
We will see.
But, all righty. Anyone in the chat? I see we've still got a bunch in the Rumble rants. Anyone, any questions for Irv here about ammunition, bullets, cool gun stuff?
Yeah. I've been around for a while.
I understand.
Well, while you're looking, I remember a test I ran. Sully, do you know what a 375 Holland and Holland is?
No.
It's legal. It can take an elephant, but it's not legal for it in most African states. It's a very large round that was designed about 115 years ago for large game, for large dangerous game. And it does a really good job of it. It's kind of a thumper. It will throw you around a little bit. It's a large rifle. And when I was starting to get into this, and you got to realize in the very early 80s, there was anecdotal evidence. Somebody say, oh, such and such a gun works great because grandpa back at Iwo Jima shot 3 of the enemy soldiers. It worked fantastic.
Okay.
So this is where I started this testing idea. And I was very interested in handgun hunting and handgun power.
Right.
So I'm out with we were going to come up with a test. We created our own test medium. In those days, it was called wet lap. You take newspaper, you soak it for 24 hours, you let it dry for 24 hours till it's damp, and you stack it up and you make about a 3-foot section of this, and you shoot through it. It doesn't extend and retract, but it's a way to capture a bullet. And what we decided to do is we were going big game hunting, and we said, you know what? We're going to use the 375 H&H as a standard. So my friend had one, and 25 yards away, he got in and fired around into the test medium. And we all went over to go, okay, this is what kills Cape Buffalo. So we measured it. And let's say the depth of the hole was 36 inches, and say it was about a 2-inch hole that it cut that deep. And we went, that's really impressive. So I got my 44 Magnum out with the load that I was making at that time, a very heavy hand cast bullet. And we got back about 25 yards, and I put a round about 6 inches next to it. And we went over and went, oh, wow, it's got a hole about 2 inches in diameter, and the hole is about 32 inches deep. What would be the difference when 4 inches? And we started realizing, well, these things could be pretty potent, more so than has been depicted. And realized handgun hunting was a stunt. The first time I hunted with a handgun was in 1975. And that was hog hunting, and that was in Tennessee. And at that time, it was a trick. Nobody did it because handguns weren't designed for that. And I will say that I took one shot, and the hog went up in the air and fell down on the ground. And we both, the guide and I, went, "Oh, that was pretty cool." But that just piqued my interest more into, okay, how do I get more power? How do we make this easily handleable firearm, this tool that's with us? Like you said, we're in the summertime. It's a tool that I have in my pocket. How can I make it as potent as possible if I have to pull the trigger? Oops. Did I pull that out? I can't hear you, Sully.
Just look, we've got a question here in the chat. Basically about the 6.5 Grendel. It's a pity the U.S. military isn't making use of the 6.5 Grendel. It can go over 900 yards. It's slightly larger than the 223.
Mm-hmm.
And then, what do you know, or what are you aware of with the 6.5 Grendel? I've personally, Gabby, I can say, I've got like zero experience with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure this gentleman here has got much more knowledge about that cartridge than do I.
Well, the 6 point, I mean, that's why the government came out and tried to get away from the 223s, right? That's why they came out with the 458 SOCOM. We wanted something in an AR platform that's going to knock a door down. We had operators telling us it's taken 2 or 3 hits to take out a terrorist target. You're right. I think I don't know why the government isn't. It's hard to get them to change. That being said, 900 yards, guys hitting something at 900 yards away with an AR platform, you got it can be done, but it's hard. You got to be a good shot. That being said, the 6.5 caliber has been around for about 130 years. All of these things that you guys are seeing out there, I've seen for 60 years. I mean, it's the same performance. And yes, they are very good. They reach out very well. So I can't tell you why. I'm very enamored with the 6.5. I'm working with a 6.5 Creedmoor, which is really an accurate round and really nice and mild considering how well it works. So I hope that helps you, Gabby. But that's what I got. I don't know either.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. Like I said, Gabby mentioned being more of a rifle person. I'm personally much more of a handgun person. My rifles are, a few 223s, a couple 300 blackouts, occasional 308 or, M1. But that's, about what I've put together. Yeah.
And they come around eventually. I mean, sooner or later they'll try the next round. I mean, the 223s come and go on, and I do think they do some 6.5, not Grendel. 6.5. There's a 6.5 cartridge that some of the operators have been using. Like I said, some people have used a 458 SOCOM, which is a fantastic round. That's just a big 45 chunk of lead, and there's a single column of cartridges down a 10-round AR-15 magazine, holds maybe 4 or 5, but you only need 4 or 5.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, I haven't played too much with that.
That's my favorite. I like that. My son has one. We
458 SOCOM.
Yeah, we work with that. We've come up with some. That's another one that's on my wish list to add to our stable. So maybe another year from now we'll be adding. The only rifle I've got planning to add would be a 30-30 for the fall. For the deer season.
See, for the most part, I'll do a lot of 223, 300, just out at the range or plinking, doing whatever with, because I'm not too much into the hunting scene. But this, the everyday carry, my everyday carry is usually 9mm.
There's nothing wrong with 9mm. 9mm is a good cartridge.
I'm a big believer in Smith Shield. I love my Smith Shield. I've got one of the early generations when they first started coming out with it, because it was, smaller than my old everyday duty carry, the Browning or the Smith 915 I have, the Taurus. It's like, okay, what can I get in there that's, let's see, he says in the military, you want a compact cartridge that takes up very little space and weight to carry with little recoil. The Grendel is that cartridge.
Yep.
And honestly, it may well be. I think, when you especially get to some of the military end of this stuff, they're going to have probably 500 times the expertise put together than what we've got on this stream, because look at the choices they've got. I mean, they
Well,
literally, the 223 was made for them for the most part. I mean,
and Gabby's right. The idea, that was Gabby, right?
yeah.
The idea is you had to hoof it. The guys, that was like my era, Vietnam era. It ended the year I turned 19, so I didn't go. But you we have to carry everything in there and
Right.
have to have enough to get out. So lightweight ammunition, where in World War II the guys were carrying what 20 bandolier, 20 a bandolier had 180 rounds in it. So it was 90 rounds,
Mm-hmm.
right? Whatever it was. So it was like 10 clips or 12 clips. It was a clip, right,
Mm-hmm.
in an AR. Sometimes they'd carry a double map bandolier, so we got extra ammo because we know we're going to a bad spot. One of my friends back in Nam was telling me we carry 400 rounds. We don't go in without 20 magazines, because you've got 10 on your body, 10 in your backpack, because we don't know when we're getting back. And that was what the government has coming up with better ways of
Right.
keeping the men armed, in pretty destitute areas.
Mm.
I mean, how do your men keep fighting? If you
Right.
go back to World War II, we have a friend that was in Burma at that time. How do you supply people back
Yeah.
in the mountains? An airdrop. They can't if you don't have enough ammo.
Mm-hmm.
Gun's just a very heavy walking stick, isn't it?
Right.
So,
and again, he's hypothesizing that possibly because it's of a British origin that maybe it's looked upon with less favor. Again, honestly, that's one of those that definitely not one I'm very familiar with at all.
nope.
In fact, you could probably put one in my hand. I'd be like, okay, what's that?
No, it's a really good hunting round. I think it's a little larger if you look at the and I think it's called a 6.5 SPC, which is basically a 223 opened up to 6.5. So you take your 223 and open the nose up a little bit, put a heavier bullet in it. It might have some changes. I'm doing this out of memory, but it has some slight change in the casing. But it still has a very large round count, and it's still relatively light to carry. That's great.
Right.
The Grendel, I think, is a little larger, and I think it's a single stack in the magazine, but I'm not sure. It is a pretty good cartridge. It's really flat shooting, but there's a bunch of them out now. Guy's got something called a 30 caliber hammer, which is the same thing. It's just a big 30 caliber bullet that fits in an AR magazine, and it's a lot of potency. And that's why, you know what? You guys get your own upper. Put the one you get,
and that to me is the joy of the playing with the AR platform. We had a discussion with a group a while back as far as why do to talk to non-gun owners. Why are us gun people so fascinated and enamored with our AR? I said, okay, I'll put it to you this way: if you take a car person and you let them get a Jeep, whether it's a CJ or a Wrangler, a Scrambler, whatever, the ability to customize, modify, grill guard parts, lights, Nerf rails, tops, there's so much out there that can be done with it. You can take 5 Jeeps that came off the assembly line one after another, put them in the hands of an enthusiast for 6 months, and you would never know that they were made in the same building, because it can be so extensively customized and tailored and tinkered with.
Well, isn't all of our military gear? I mean, first of all, it's all designed for hard use. It's all designed to work. You picked a Jeep. Look, pick the Hummer. Look how popular that became. And you can take anything that's been in our military service, pretty much. GPS was military.
Right.
And you can take any of the firearms. And we talked earlier about the 1911 and I don't care. And when it first, the military, all of a sudden it became very popular on the home front too.
Right.
And the AR it's just got a great platform. It just works.
Right.
It just keeps on firing. And like you said, they've made so many choices now. My God, you used to be, when I was a kid, it was a 223 and they just had so many basics. You guys now, you can get everything from 20 caliber up to 45 in fixed in that. And long range barrels, you really do have quite a choice.
Between the barrels, the lining of the barrels, the rotation of the barrels, the length of the barrels, and get into the gas system. So it sounds like, in the hands of an enthusiast who wants to tweak and toy with something custom, that's the great one to do. But,
that was good.
AR. Switch the upper, and it's a 6.5 Grendel. The soldiers in Iraq should have made use of it.
We can't worry. I'm sorry, we can't change the past.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder if Gabby is like running a Grendel plant in his basement.
I think he is. Maybe he's selling them.
He might be. Gabby, if you are running a Grendel plant in your basement, let me know. We'll get you in for the interview next month.
It's a good cartridge. And there's a lot of good cartridges that come up too. And trying to remember the guy. It's not Kimber. It'll come to me in a minute. And he's been working a lot with the AR too to make flat varmint rounds, hunting rounds. I mean, really packing as much power in that little teeny magazine as he can. So there's a lot of great choices.
Right. And I know my thing was I was just playing with the blackouts, and then again getting into the blackouts and the subsonic stuff and everything else. But
yeah, I want to get that. I want to add that on my list too. Blackout subsonic.
Yeah. He says, no, he's just a big advocate of the 6.5 Grendel, just curious. Yeah, and again, Gabby, I will honestly say you are definitely much more knowledgeable on that round or whatever than I am. Never had any experience of it, although I definitely will look into it. Definitely will be something, again, I may look at my next, doing my next AR in that. Because I occasionally do it for fun.
Yeah. 6.5s generally, depending on the weight, retain their velocity better. Just something. It just seems to be almost like a magic diameter. They have it's called a ballistic coefficient, which means the ratio between how the bullet performs between how the ideal bullet and then how this performs. And it has a relatively high correlation to working ideally. It just retains its weight. Retains its velocity better as it's flying through the air, which means it flies a little flatter,
right?
For comparable bullets, and that's why he was talking about you can, with training, you can make half-mile shots.
Damn.
Yeah, and that's pretty. And then when you hit there, you actually are hitting. I mean, its bullet might weigh 120 to 140 grains, so it might have enough energy to actually do something.
Right. Yeah. He's definitely educating me at the moment.
Okay, good. Well,
yeah, he's definitely educating me in the Rumble chat.
Well, there you go.
I mean, honestly, the funny thing is that's one of the things I love about Rumble platform, because we get some of the greatest comments in on the Rumble platform. Nothing against the YouTube folks over there. I know we've got a couple watching now, but I love the Rumble chat because we get very, very good comments in there.
Okay.
All righty. Any other questions? Again, I've got the little scroll going there, blackbeltammunition.com.
Yep. Thank you. I hope you guys, hope some people take advantage of this.
Right. And again, this one's going to be up and saved on both of them. I can tell it's going live to both platforms. So we're doing the dual stream today. I wanted to, get it as much exposure as I can.
Thank you.
And folks, for the ones on YouTube, if you don't see a lot on our channel on YouTube, you don't see a lot of videos that I'm talking about stuff, and you just can't find it on our playlist in YouTube, check in Rumble. Again, I'm not throwing rocks at YouTube. I just know the fact of some things in my library, some things I talk about or cover, they don't really like too much. And so, occasionally, depending on what my topic is for the day, today I figured Irv wasn't going to go too far off the reservation. But on the other side of the coin, if I'm doing something with, going over an active shooter or a live event, things like that, things where I might have some somebody getting their birth certificate revoked. Yeah, I try to be careful about putting it on YouTube, so I put it over on Rumble, and that way, again, I respect YouTube. They don't want that. Rumble's cool with it, so I just run it as Rumble exclusive on those.
Were you talking about ALP? Acute lead poisoning.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't heard that one. I've heard of ART.
Okay.
Assuming room temperature.
Okay.
Let's see. Are you familiar with the IWI Galilee and the modernized version of the AK?
No. First of all, I'm pretty much all handguns, so
Okay.
that's not one. No, I can't say anything I do would be just guessing.
Right. And I'm definitely not familiar that much with the AK. However, there's a guy named Brandon who knows all about those, and I don't mean let's go Brandon, but you know, I'm pretty sure there's a guy named Brandon who's, you could probably, I'll put it this way: he's forgotten more this week than I've ever known about an AK.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Brandon Herrera, the AK guy.
I know it's a good gun. I know Mr. Kalashnikov tried to build a gun that it's one of the most recognizable guns in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But 50 million of them made, 100 million of them made.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty cool in that Clint Eastwood movie. What was that one where it was an old movie. He played an old drill sergeant, and they invaded a South Sea island, a Caribbean island. It was about the time we
Heartbreak
were invading.
Ridge.
Yeah, Heartbreak Ridge. This is the sound of an AK-47. He was shooting right over their heads.
Yeah. Yeah. Gunny Sergeant Highway.
Yeah.
Yep. In fact, it was so funny. I was watching some of the old movies and stuff during the pandemic, and I was babysitting for a friend of mine because her kids are out of school, and they were talking about different things, and they're middle school, pushing high school age, and I said, you know what? And I pulled up Heartbreak Ridge. And I was like, you want to know what movies were when I was growing up?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you like the Blackout. The difference between a 30, between 7.62 by 47, I think that's what it is, versus the Blackout, from my point of view, the differences aren't very much.
Right.
So they did a very good job designing the Blackout. Or as I remember it, by the Whisper.
The Springfield XT40. I actually like Springfield stuff. They've done real well with their handguns. I don't know if I've fired the XT40, but I know I fired a couple of different Springfield. They came out with Springfield came out not too long ago. Something Hellcat, Bearcat, something.
I know they just came out with a new P35, so that's what I was looking at. The Browning. I know my son he likes the XDs, and he likes them in 45.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. Like I said, my personal everyday carry is Smith Shield, and I will say my favorite range training gun is Springfield. Not Springfield, Smith Shield Easy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've played with that at all.
Just handled them.
Okay, for a first-time shooter.
Mm-hmm.
The weight of the spring on the slide is amazing. And this is, again, I had a lot of first-time gun buyers. I had a lot of first-time gun owners. I had people bringing me stuff that was still wrapped in plastic at their CWP class. And it was like, okay.
Yep.
But, I mean, and I had a lot of people who were like, I don't even know what to buy. And I said, okay. So we went through, they did their whole class and everything. And while their stuff was being processed, I had my little box of guns there. And I let them try 2 or 3. Here's Yeah, the Ruger LCP, Smith Shield, the Shield Easy, and had like a Taurus. It was a GT3 or GTTC3 something, and try some of those, see what's comfortable. And the Smith Shield Easy was a big winner in that group. And I'm like, okay, was it a good look? If you like it and it's comfortable to shoot and you don't dread practicing with it, you will practice with it. You will be efficient with it.
Wise man said, when the balloon goes up and you have to shoot, what you have with you is the best thing you could possibly have. Just don't.
Right.
If you want to change your mind later, that's something else. When you go into this, you have to have full confidence in your skills. Hunting is the same way. Actually, anything. You have to have confidence in yourself.
We've got another good one in here in the chat from Gabby. And this one.
All right, Gabby.
I know where I'm at with this one, but this one, I'm going to give you first crack on this one. What do you think of Alec Baldwin's version of not pressing the trigger? I've got 2 videos on this one, so I'll let you go first.
I haven't seen a video, but from what I've heard, it's a single action peacemaker that he's using. That they somehow let live ammunition on the range because during takes they're off shooting in the desert or whatever the reason is. I'm not sure. But I do know the gun enough to know there's only one way it can go off. So you have to A, pull the hammer back, and B, pull the trigger, and C, have live ammunition in it. That's all you can do. That's the only thing you can do.
Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah, you hit that one really well.
Someone has to do 1, 2, and 3, and then the only reason a person got shot is the barrel is pointing right at somebody. That's
okay.
What's live ammunition doing on a movie set?
Okay.
I feel bad for the family. I think it's a horrible tragedy for everybody because I'm sure he didn't intend it, and I'm sure that the weapons handler didn't, and I'm sure that it was just brutally horrible on every time. But ignorance, in safety business, we tell that ignorance will kill you. Not knowing and not doing the right thing will get you killed.
Right.
Training saves lives.
Right. Okay.
There you go. Your turn.
Okay. Now, Gabby, just in case you haven't seen it since you've been having lots of fun in the chat today, I'll give you my Alec Baldwin version here. I agree with everything our wonderful guest said, but I'm going to go just a hair deeper because I have worked on a movie set. I've worked on multiple movie sets. I know the protocols for firearm handling on a movie set. As a set medic on multiple union shows, which are pretty much higher level guidelines than what they were doing, I know the rules. And so when I did my little rip a new one on this one, I brought some fun stuff for show and tell, including the actual official guidelines and safety guidelines for SAG-AFTRA. Let's see here. I want to pull this one. Let's see. Share that one. So now, even if we don't think it's loaded, now you mentioned they let live ammo on the set because people were plinking and twinking and doing stupid stuff. Yes, that is the fault of the armorer. When we were dealing with ammunition on sets, okay, all actors should be certified. Yes, I agree to a point, Gabby, but let me go down my road here. Yes, the firearms, the actor should have basic training provided by the armorer at that time to make sure he or she is familiar with the weapon. However, the armorer themselves shall be handing that weapon to the actor and receiving it back from the actor. If the actor has the weapon in their holster and they get overheated and collapse of heat exhaustion, the armorer should take the weapon from them, not the medic.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I mean, you see, there's a very strict chain of custody. The shows I was on, working for Warner Brothers, it was pretty much explained to us. Consider what the FBI or the ATF would want for their ultimate chain of custody be 5 times as strict, and we might let you live around here. Those armorers, you don't touch it. If you're the actor and you're using that in a scene, and I say, ooh, I want to look at that, can I? And I'm another actor in that scene, you hand it back to the armorer, and I have to go request permission from them to touch it.
Mm-hmm.
He or she is 100% responsible for that firearm. Now, having theatrical props, firearms, being used and tinkered with out on the range, I feel was the fault of a very young, inexperienced armorer who was trying to be more of a friend than a armorer. She's trying to be cool. She's trying to be everyone's buddy.
Well, she also could be sucking up to the producer.
Okay. But I'm not thinking the producer. I don't think he was the one plinking. I think it was the guys on the crew.
Well, we don't know. We really don't know.
Right. I don't see Alec Baldwin being the type who wants to go plinking, though. I'm guessing the stagehands were the ones who wanted to get breaks and go out and shoot in the desert.
And if that's it, then it was a tragic because they shouldn't be using guns. They shouldn't be using a live weapon anyway.
Well, I'm fine with them using the live weapon, but that weapon, when it comes into the armorer, it should be going, again, armorer to actor, actor back. You know, how that got a live round in it, well, the assistant director had it, and it was left on a cart, and, you know, we went through how they make prop rounds for Hollywood. Mm-hmm. They can make different types of prop rounds. One version will have no primer on it and a BB in it. And it'll look like a regular round for all intents and purposes.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, if it's on the cylinder face of a revolver, it looks real. But when you load it in, you can pick it up and you can shake it and you can hear. If it has to have something that looks like a real primer on it, then it is to have a hole drilled in the side of the casing.
Mm-hmm.
So that hole on the side of the casing can be clearly identified. Why we're mixing ammunition, why we're ever loading that, you know, that was a recipe for disaster. Now, the FBI lab tested it. They could not make it discharge without the trigger being pulled.
Nope.
So, as far as he didn't pull the trigger, well, okay. Yes, you're right. The armorer's dad was very well renowned, and I think she tried to be one of the good old boys, and again, less of a boss than enforcer. And that's, you know, it's the same thing as if, you know, if I'm refereeing a football or I'm refereeing a hockey game and I'm not keeping the game under control and things start getting out of hand and someone gets hurt. Well, what happened? Well, the ref let this thing get way out of hand. She's letting it get out of hand if props are being used for playing, because those props are her responsibility. Now, this is for the use of firearms with blanks. You know, live ammunition is never to be used or brought onto any studio lot or stage.
Mm-hmm.
This is the industry-wide safety bulletin number 1. This isn't like filed in an appendix somewhere. This is like at the top of number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Before the use of any firearm rehearsal or camera sequence, off camera, all persons involved must be thoroughly briefed. On-site safety prep, you know, where the firearms will be used, shall include on-site walkthrough, dry run with the property master in his or her absence, the weapons handler, armorer, other appropriate personnel. You know, no one should be issued a firearm until he or she is trained in safe handling and use. Any questions, property master in his or her absence, the weapons handler. You know, there's so many steps in safety that are in there. And I know from your side in the mining world, you're familiar with, you know, this type of safety protocol.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, if it's absolutely necessary to do it on camera, consult the property master in his or her absence, weapons handler, first AD, stage manager. Now, we have the whole wonderful situation here that she, because of COVID protocol, was not even on set. We had half the camera crew walk off that morning. We had, it was total chaos. I would say he's grossly negligent. That's my opinion. Never lay a firearm down or leave it unattended unless actively filming or rehearsing. Secure it. And that is, again, you're the actor. You need it for this scene. The director tells the armorer to bring it to you. They put it in your hand. When you get done with it, you put it in their hand. You see where we're going here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Qualifications for working with the type of firearms used, knowledge of safe handling, familiarity with the blank, and there's different types of blanks. To me, again, having worked sets, ensuring any actor is required to stand near the line of fire, should be allowed to witness the unloading of firearms. Not in the line of fire, anyone near the line of fire. There may be a very rare occasion where you use live. It must be. And again, this is special paperwork, everything. It details out all the requirements. They should never have had live ammunition anywhere. And that is, I'm number one faulting her. If he's been on 100 movies in his life with firearms, you should never have had one with live ammunition there. And again, when we go firearm, what's the first rule? Treat all weapons as though they're loaded and ready to use. Do not play, never point at anyone, including yourself. Follow the directions of the property manager or weapons handler. Use of firearms may require special permits, operator certifications. All weapons should go with safety inspection and testing and cleaning on a daily basis. Anyone handling a weapon shall receive proper training, know all the safety features, and again, all the bulletins there. It's... I can see, not calling them props, refer to them as firearms. I think that's in semantics. I think that I think they were very lax on their safety protocols because it was a small show. I think she was very inexperienced, and she let some of the individuals who were working the show coach her into letting some stuff go on that she shouldn't have let go on. If she tells them, hey, I'm responsible for all the firearms on this set. I catch you with one round of live ammunition, I'm going to the AD and you're getting thrown off this set, it never would have happened. She supplied the guns for the live ammunition to be played with.
Yeah.
Again, it's, you mentioned, having some kids. I know they're older, but think about it. If you went out of town, would you want the babysitter to be, yes, friendly, but you'd also want them not to be playing along with every idea the kids came up with?
No.
You're the responsible adult in charge, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was not the responsible adult in charge of firearms.
And she paid the price.
And she's still charged. Now, the charges have been dropped on him for now, but when they were dropped without prejudice. And there is a lot of speculation on that. And again, we can dig back through the old stream, folks. It's on the chat on Rumble, I promise you. The big thing with me was when they dropped it without prejudice. If they dropped it with prejudice, it can't be reopened again. If they dropped it without prejudice, they can pick it up tomorrow. Now, the thing is, with it being dropped, he is not under a potential murder or manslaughter charge. So if he has to handle a weapon today for filming today, he can do so. If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what New Mexico and Arizona's laws are, but and my hypothesis was, and I talked to a couple of attorneys I know about it, and they said I was really grasping at straws. But I said maybe, just maybe, in order, because they dropped it with this weird, without prejudice, the day before the shooting started back on the film to finish the film. Now, if he's going out there to finish the film, perhaps he can't handle a firearm if he's under indictment, depending on how their state law is. And so they say, look, his attorney calls up and says, look, can you drop this long enough? Let him finish the film that's half done and pick it up later. And the way it's dropped, they can pick it up 10 years from now and do it. Or they can ignore it forever. We don't know. So, yeah, it's up. It's on the Rumble Library, definitely. All righty. Any other questions here for Mr. Gill? Well, Derv, I've definitely appreciated chatting with you tonight and getting to know you.
Thank you.
May even have you back in sometime when you have some new toys or new products or new cool gel videos to bring out for us.
Oh, there'll be a whole bunch coming out shortly.
Well, hey, you've got my numbers now. I'm not that impossible to get a hold of.
Okay. Yes, you weren't.
But
thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, Mike. It was a real experience.
I've definitely enjoyed it. I've learned a lot. And, folks, check his stuff out. I'm going to throw his email up here on the bottom. Please don't blow him up too bad. But if you have a specific question, there's how you can contact them. There's their website. Again, trying to do something better, make some really interesting ammunition. I know he had mentioned, possibly trying to send me down some 9mm to play with. I haven't even had a chance to go to the range since the first time you emailed me. It's been that bad. But hopefully I will one of these days. But, folks, I've enjoyed it. Go ahead, check them out, give them some business. To me, like I said, someone wants to do something better, make something better. And again, small business, how everyone got started at some point.
All right. Thank you very much.
I enjoy it. You have a wonderful evening, sir.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Okay. Bye. Folks, be smart, be safe, please. Bye.